Well, it happened. We got somewhere between 6 and 12 inches of snow. Who knows? It blew everywhere. I lean more towards 10, but it's hard to get an accurate measurement when you have snow drifts, and it's melted a lot yesterday. This is Saturday. It snowed on Wednesday night and Thursday night and Thursday day, all the times. I'll show you some more pictures. Right now it's kind of pretty, but it's gonna melt a lot today, and that means this will all be mud eventually. Mud and then ice, and then mud and then ice, and it's just not my favorite thing. Now I'm inside checking on the freeze dryer. It looks like it's done, so that's awesome. I want to see if this is beef broth in here. You'd think I'd know. I'm gonna hit the warm trays.
In the freeze dryer today we have bone broth. This is beef bone broth. The bottom two trays here are very gelatinous and have a texture or consistency of Jell-O. The second one has a little bit more solid matter in the back. It was in the bottom of the jar, so I'm mainly documenting this for when we take it out. The next tray, the back of it is more of the gelatinous gooey stuff, and then the front of it is more like a gummy bear consistency. It's much thicker. And then the fourth tray is all of that texture, so it'll be interesting to see how this comes out.
Button with my broken nail. It ran for 41 hours 21 minutes. Great second use for the freeze dryer. We try to keep it running when it's super cold, because it's in this storage shed building outside with all my dried flowers. I store some seeds and medications for the goats. This is my goat medicine cabinet. This is extra oil. Those are all different things we use in the flower field. So we try to keep all of this above freezing in the winter, and we have a space heater that will heat this building above freezing, but it's a lot more efficient, in my opinion, to run the freeze dryer and have things freeze drying that we need to preserve, and also be heating the building. The freeze dryer creates tons of heat. So in the summer, we have this air conditioner right next to the unit. We have to run the air conditioner on like full blast to keep it cool enough to run the freeze dryer. So it's nice to go the other way around. The freeze dryer also needs it to be above freezing. So the oil in the pump needs to be above freezing in order for it to get started. So we just have to work around that to keep it going. Alright, I'm opening up the freeze dryer to see what our beef broth looks like. It looks awesome. This was really jello-y, as you will see or have seen in the other video. This one was more liquid. So I'm going to take these over to the table and see if they're dry. They're a little hot. I turned on the warm trays button, so it says 97 and dropping, but this one I need to hold with 2 hands. Okay, so to see if it's all dry, I'm going to break it. This is awesome. This is like the most solid of any of the broths we have freeze dried. And we've done turkey, venison, chicken so far. So this is the first time we've done beef bone broth. It's really just, there's so much substance to it. This one is just kind of weird. It's so hard. And usually the broth is this really light, fluffy stuff. This one just has so much more to it. I mean, this is light and soft, but it's not like I can just crush it with my fingers and put it in the jar. So I'm going to definitely need some extra jars. Okay, now it's a little quieter in here. I've been filling these jars. This is the powdery styrofoam stuff, and this is the harder, more gelatin beef broth. I was gonna try to just like stab it. Can't really do this while holding the camera. What I could do is put it in a blender. I think that would be reasonable. I really wanted to combine this jar into the other two, but I'm running out of jars because normally a batch of freeze-dried broth would only take up like 2 or 3 quart jars, and I'm already at, this is my 6th. This isn't quite a full quart. This is only like a pint and a half jar. It's an old pasta jar, but still, I have one more after this, and I've got that much left. So this isn't gonna fit. I'm gonna have to go back to the house. And so it begins. Slushy, sludgy mess turning to ice overnight, and then back to the slushy, sludgy mess during the day. Hopefully just a few days and we'll be done with this snow. For those of you who don't know, we are somewhere that gets snow, obviously, but we are not used to this. It's more like a once a year at most sort of situation where we really have this much snow. And we had a lot of snow last year in the middle of February. We got like a foot over a couple days, and that was the first time that had happened in like almost a decade. And we hadn't had any measurable snow at all before last February. For the 3 years before that, and the year before that, when we did have a measurable snow, it was 4 inches. I mean, this is a lot more than 4 inches. Oh. She's so cute there. Anyway, it's not something we have to deal with all the time. And it is not very much fun anymore. Okay, the defrost is done from our last batch, but it kind of lies. You can see the ice back there. Probably just because the room temperature in here is so cold. I'm gonna try to do this with the camera on, but anyway, I'm gonna have to turn the camera off, but I just grab that ice and pull it out of there. It's all disconnected. I'm gonna get a wet cloth and wipe this down. This, I believe, is just the broth from the last batch, and then I'm gonna start another batch. All right, we're ready to load the trays with this mixture that I will talk about in just a minute. I wanted to say 2 things. If you're thinking about getting a freeze dryer, there's 2 accessories that I highly recommend. One is an extra set of trays. So it comes with the 5 trays, or the whatever number of trays. If you get a medium, I think it's 4, and then the small, I think is only 3. But the large comes with 5 trays. We bought an extra set of trays. We actually got it with a store credit because there was a tiny little dent in our freeze dryer when it arrived. And we also got these mats. I think we have 2 sets of them also. I have the box over here. The box has obviously gotten wet, but this is the box for the 5 mats. I think we have two sets floating around here. They're so handy though. Before we got these, we were using parchment paper for anything that might stick, like fruit. And I don't know, there's just some things that stick to the freeze dryer. Most things don't, but if you're concerned at all about sticking, you use the mat and it doesn't stick. It's much easier to work with than parchment paper. I don't know when this will come in handy, but I want to show you guys a trick I just figured out. So this is oats and chicken. So you could also freeze dry regular oatmeal or just chicken shredded, and it might be, I don't know. For whatever reason, this is very sticky and very clumped together. It's also cold, which is not helping, but it's better for it to go in the freeze dryer cold. So I'm gonna put this tray in. You can see it's nice and smooth and loaded relatively evenly. I've got another tray that I already did, just like that. Back over at our workstation, I've been using this already, as you can probably guess what I'm going to do here. I am going to put this silicone mat on top of this one, and then I use the other tray, press down. I'm also not going to be able to fit my whole batch of dog food. I think that was the whole crock pot full of oatmeal and like 10 pounds of chicken. Okay, there's that. Set that over there. But see, now it's all flat, and I can also tell that it's a little thin over here. So see how hard this is to scoop. Not that most people are going to be freeze drying oats and chicken, but it's nice. Maybe cookie dough would be a similar setup. Okay, so this is the dog food. Turns out that I fit it in here just fine. I have 4.5 trays of dog food. I could have gone thinner and pressed it down more, but I didn't, and now it's in there. So I added this parchment paper, and this is lime zest. Boy, does it smell good. I'm spacing it out and breaking up. There's some clumps, I'm not sure why. But I needed to freeze dry this. I freeze dried lemon zest recently, and it was amazing. So I wanted to have some lime. So, but I don't want the lime zest to actually touch the dog food, obviously. So it probably would have been okay if I had had a clean tray, but this tray already had dog food on it, and then I pushed it over to the side. So now my hands smell like this instead of dog food. I'm going to trim off a little bit of this extra paper on this side. I'm going to kind of leave it over here, kind of above that, and keeping it from touching the dog food. I think the line is actually over here a little more. I'm trying not to layer too much because I don't want it to like make it not dry. Anyway, unlike with a dehydrator, with a freeze dryer, you can put different foods like even garlic and onion. You can freeze dry with other foods, and the flavor of this food does not affect this food, and this food does not affect this food, unless it touches. Then you're out of luck. When it thaws at the end, when the freeze dryer defrosts and the water comes out, then you smell all the flavors, but you don't have them mixing in your food. Okay, lime zest tray, dog food in the back, chicken oatmeal dog food all down the front. There's something on this. Don't know what that is. It's like a piece of leaf. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna put my cover in and turn the freeze dryer on and leave it, and I will have to show you how this turns out in another video, because this video is about finished. We have the broth to show you. I'm going to rehydrate some of that and see what it looks like, see if it turns back into jello, and then I'll close my valve here. I'll forget something because I'm talking. Okay, start. Not frozen. Continue. I already closed the valve, and now this will get going, and we will show you the dog food some other time.
So we've got our beef broth that was extra gelatinous out of the freeze dryer. This is, it came out kind of in chunks, so we broke it up into chunks. What we're going to do is we're going to rehydrate a couple of chunks in cold water. We're going to rehydrate a couple of chunks in hot water and see how they do versus each other. And this is some bone broth that we made earlier in the year. This is actually venison. We're going to do about 2 tablespoons of it. And we're going to do it in hot water as well, just for comparison. This is very standard bone broth versus this really jello-like stuff. So we've got some water.
Move this back out of the way.
Some hot water. I'm going to put a very comparable amount, about 2 tablespoons. And I'm also going to do that over here. And then we're going to put some cold water. This is cold water just out of the tap to see if it acts any differently.
Oh, this one's fun.
Yeah. Well, this one's not breaking down quite as quickly.
That's what we would expect.
Yeah, that's what we expect from hot water. The venison broth is actually pretty much back to its broth form. What we were hoping to find was that the more gelatinous beef broth that was rehydrated with hot water would come back in more of the broth form, but the one that was rehydrated with cold water would come back in more of the jello form. The beef broth that we rehydrated or reconstituted with hot water has turned into a lovely clear beef broth, as has the venison broth. The stuff that we did, the beef broth that we did with the cold water hasn't fully come back yet.
All right, so that concludes this video about freeze-drying bone broth and showing you a bit of our mess post-snow 2022. In case you wonder how the chickens feel about the snow, you see, I don't really see any footprints out there. I'm not sure what that spot in the middle is, but nothing. They're right here, and that's it.